Hey, everybody, welcome to our first edition of Tea Time, all things PR and branding with me, Tanya McKenzie. And I'll always bring you the coolest, most impressive, most experienced guests that have a plethora of public relations experience, practical experience that they can help you understand why it's so important to have PR and branding in your business life. Today, we have an amazing guest. Okay, let me tell you why she's so amazing. I'm super impressed by her. Listen, SEO is something that is incredibly complex. It is hard to understand for a lot of people. It's also expensive. But many people don't recognize why it's so important to their business and how it actually works with public relations. Like they work well together. I didn't even know that was a thing. Yes, they do. And today I'm going to bring you Miss Tamara. And let me tell you what else is important about her. She's one of my co-hosts for PR Lunch Hour. She works for a firm and she also has her own business. She's multifaceted. She knows how to be an entrepreneur and bring in her own business. So with that, there's lead generation, right? Understanding how to create a buzz around yourself. So when I tell you this lady is amazing and it is my absolute pleasure to be affiliated with her and to bring her to you, my LinkedIn community, Miss Tam. I call her Tam Tam. She said it sounded like family. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm just going to stick with Miss Tam Tam because I love her like a cousin. Just love her. She's great. Hey, Tam, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Oh, my God. So let the people know how long you've been in public relations and what is PR to you?
Whew. Okay, how long? So I've actually combined my digital experiences about 7+ years. I would say I come from more of a content creation SEO background, and then I have transitioned into digital PR. PR to me is basically all about brand awareness. It's about getting your brand on top of mind for people, and the way to do it is actually to earn it. So PR is about earning it, which is different from advertising where you'd pay for it. So that's what it means to me.
Now, for people that don't know the difference between advertising and public relations, because we've discussed it many times, and I'm sure people that are watching have been told, hey, get great PR for your company. Just pay me this $3,500.
Yeah.
How do we
Yeah.
get them to understand that that in itself is not public relations? Because it sounds good, right? And if your name is being affiliated with companies like Forbes,
Mhm.
Black Enterprise,
Mhm.
ABC, you
Mhm.
would think, well, absolutely, this has to be credible. What is it that we need to get most people to know when it comes to these package deals that seem to land in their inbox and it's a quicker turnaround than, let's say, paying someone like us?
Yeah. So no stranger to these types of DMs because I get them myself, even as a PR professional. Um, However, so the main difference to remember is that PR is earned and advertising is paid for. That's really the main difference. So when you're talking about advertising, you're talking about ads, whether it's social media, whether it's on Google, whatever you can think about in, a bench, a billboard, whatever, that is advertising. PR is when you earn it. So if someone just naturally mentions you or you are contributing to an article about a specific topic and you're sharing knowledge, you're getting a profile about your company or about you on a website, you're not paying for it. That is really how you tell the difference. Some other things you can also think about to differentiate between the two. One major thing is actually if the reporter or the journalist lets you preview the questions before they read the article, it's probably not considered earned media in the truest sense of the term. So again, paid versus earned is really all you need to know.
Now, listen, for me, public relations is getting the public to know, like, and trust you,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
There's an art to that.
there
But
is.
the thing is, if I hear words like Cosmopolitan, ABC, BET, I'm
Hmm.
thinking those are trustworthy brands.
True.
So what's the problem if I pay for it? I mean, then I am affiliated with trustworthy brands and people should trust me and trust what I say.
Yeah. So this is a fun one. You put me on the spot here. Okay, well, with this one in particular, there is no, I would say, complete harm in paying for it. But let me really add some context to that statement, okay? We're not saying that you're going to get on BET, right, by paying $10,000 and it's a definite situation. Whenever you hear that it's definite and it's not an ad like within a show or something, that's a scam. Straight up.
Wait, we're going straight there.
Yeah, I was gonna go straight there because it is a scam. I don't want people spending money on things that they're getting scammed out of. Like I've gotten DMs on Instagram, I've gotten emails saying like, "Hey, we have we have this feature, and basically, if you sign up today, we'll get you in this feature in 2 weeks." Like that's not how PR works. PR is very timely. It's about what's happening in the news. And yes, sometimes, like for local media, for example, they have adopted a paid model, especially in certain markets. But that's different. Like maybe you have to do that to be the guest on a local show. Maybe you have to do that to have an ad, saying the word again, to show within a TV show or show within a certain segment or something like that. But like you're not generally paying for PR directly to that outlet that you're going to be featured in. That's typically not how that goes. So it's really important to make sure that you identify what's a scam versus what is true PR. And yes, I did go there because I just need to go there.
So I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be very transparent with you all. There's a reason that I have Tam on here today. We talk about this stuff often and we're very transparent. One of the reasons that I wanted to start having these conversations is because recently in the news, there's been some turmoil in regards to what PR people are paid and what people are expecting from that. So setting expectations with our clients is very big. It's a big deal because we don't want you expecting magic when we are not magicians. We are practitioners.
Correct.
So how do you set expectations? What would you tell someone that is considering hiring you as a practitioner to work for their company or their personal brand in regards to what they should expect? When you pay for PR, what should you expect? How do you break that down, Ms. Tam?
So I always start out with one thing. I always say it takes time. And I said, if you don't want to wait and be patient, this is not the best fit.
Go buy an ad.
Yep, you'd be better off spending money on ads and spending money on, it could be Google, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You'd be better off doing that. But I always also say that ads, it's a pay to play thing, right? Which is basically how ads are defined. You are paying to even get seen by someone who could be your ideal client or your ideal audience. However, if you're doing earned media, it's the same thing that goes with SEO actually. If you're doing those things, you have to be in it for the long term. And you actually spend less when you spread it out over time. So another great example I use in like client meetings is if you're going to spend $10 per click, right? And you get 10 clicks in a day, that's 100 clicks. But if you spend $100 a week on SEO or on PR, for example, that can generate clicks for you forever, right?
Yes.
The ad only shows up once, PR, SEO, forever. So it's really a matter of saying, like, do you want to get a quick result? Do you want to microwave this situation? Or do you actually want to bake it and it lasts longer? It's up to you. But I definitely pitch it that way. I'm just bring in the analogies. But I'm just, a down to earth person. I'm just like, and then if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. But I don't like to string people along or make them feel like they're going to have results tomorrow. It's like, it can happen. Like, sometimes we have contacts. Sometimes the story that they are talking about might fit into the news cycle tomorrow. Like we can't predict it, right? But it's just important to know that this is long term. This is not going to be, you're not going to microwave this thing. It's not popcorn.
It's not popcorn. And here's the thing. When people hire firms or practitioners for their business or their personal brand, they're hiring someone with a certain level of contacts and relationships in a genre, right? I have those relationships with them. You have those relationships with them. Sometimes it takes a while to build the trust of your brand with our contacts. Just because I say you're cool, don't mean that they believe that. There's an opportunity to build trust behind your name and behind your brand, which also takes me to the next point, which is okay, once you've done something great and you hire someone to do PR, you have to continue doing the work because
Yeah.
we have to continue feeding the story to
Correct.
people that could possibly cover it. How
Correct.
do you get your potential clients or clients to understand, hey, I know you hired me, but you got to keep working. You got to keep bringing me new things to work on.
I mean, again, I love to use analogies. So my other analogy that I use is planting a tree, right? You put the seed in the ground, but you don't just put the seed there and leave it. You have to water it. You have to like take, remove weeds. You have to gardening. You have to garden. So that
Fertilize.
exactly, you got to fertilize it, you got to water it, you got to watch it, you got to prune it. So that is actually the best way I found, again, for me personally, to communicate what it takes, right? If someone thinks they're going to just have me do this and like ghostwrite it for them all the time, then my next thing is, okay, like that is a way we can do some type of like digital PR, right? Like you have contributed content, like you can do that. However, if you want to get into like a bigger news outlet or you want to share a bigger story, that's only one part of the plan and the equation. So if that's all you want to do as far as collaborating with me, then that's all you're going to get, in a way. The input is going to come out, like it's going to have a certain amount of output, but at the end of it, it's planting, it's gardening. You have to plant the seed. You still got to do things. It's not just going to grow magically, right? That's not how this works. That's not how gardening works. So that's not how, anything in our industry works. But it's also like, if when you plan or like you plant something and you garden something, you may not see results right away. Sitting there and waiting and like watching a plant try to grow is not really ideal. You plant and then you can go do something else, which is the benefit of PR, right? You plant the seed with a contact at a certain point in time. You let your PR person water it, fertilize it, all that stuff, and you can still keep running your business. You can still keep doing, like, sometimes it's great to do PR and ads, right? Like you're not just like doing one thing. You can still do other things in your business, but the beauty of it is that when that plant starts to grow, it starts complementing all of your other marketing and business efforts, and it actually amplifies and multiplies it. And that's what you want. So,
Absolutely. So
yeah.
listen, tell the people what genre of public relations you specialize in.
So I specialize in legal PR. Um, Again, at the agency I work for, Postali, and then when I am actually more wearing my SEO hat, I deal with women-led, Black-owned small businesses. So it's a little different.
Awesome.
Mhm.
And how do you decide which angle to take on a story? And how do you get your clients to recognize you have to be multifaceted to be effective in getting PR? Talk to me about that.
I would say angles. I always go down to who the person is. Like, who are they? Like, what's their true personality? What's their true lifestyle? How do they want to be known? If I do see any conflicts between how they want to be known and who they truly are, I bring that up right away. When it comes to earned media, the best way to create a crisis is to be inauthentic. I know we love using that word, but like my my goal is to make sure they're actually representing who they are, so that even if I'm not there and they're down the street and someone asks them a question, I can trust the fact that they're being themselves. Like this has to go both ways. I can't be fake. They can't be fake, right? Again, I'm just going to be blunt, straight to the point. Um, and so that's really what it is. If they, from there, that's when I decide what angles are better. Now, if they're not completely upfront with me, which, we always talk about in PR lunch hour, how that can happen. Sometimes they withhold information. And even though you ask and ask and ask, you may never really get the full answer. And that's not fun. But you always do your best and remain authentic and true to that brand or that person as much knowledge as you know. And that's how you decide. Now, if there's some sort of conflict of interest when it comes to like the values of that brand versus who I am as a person, I'm not going to work with that person, simply because that can not just tarnish my brand just without PR, but it tarnishes my relationship with my contacts. And at the end of the day, relationships are key in what we do. So it's not worth it to burn bridges. I'm just not in that game either. But usually when I
Listen,
understand who they are, that's how I know what angles to do. Like,
So since you brought it up, let's talk about branding, personal branding, business branding, and why it's so important, and how you deal with that conflict when the brand does not match up with the story that they want being told. I have a hard time with that only because, well, it's misleading.
Yeah.
So how do you get them to recognize that personal branding is important and the authenticity of it? Because I think, especially with women, okay, you did say Black women that you deal with, sometimes feel like they're not enough or that their story isn't important. Even though the work that they're doing is important, the story that you are trying to tell, they might feel like, well, that's not that important. I'm not that special. I just want to talk about this business or this thing I did. So how do you get people to recognize the authenticity importance of their brand? Because, you know, sometimes I think people struggle with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've struggled with it, as you know. I definitely have to evaluate and think that through for myself. However, I will say when it comes to clients, I'm very good at getting them to see where their, strengths are. And so usually sometimes they're trying to talk to me via email, for example. That's usually where I start seeing that, imposter syndrome or like insecurity come up. And so I usually just get them on the phone and we talk through it. That's my way of dealing with it, is I'd like to talk through it with someone and say, hey, you may not see it this way, but here's what you've achieved. Here's what you've done. Here's what your clients have said about you. Basically, I just become the person just reminding them of all of the accolades and like the awards and the recognition and like the people that have thanked them. And once I do that, again, for me, I've seen success in getting that person to go ahead with the story because they're seeing that I truly believe in it. And again, I'm not just pumping them up just to be just for the sake of it. I'm really trying to get them to do something that I see value in for them. And so me just reminding them of everything, like being their cheerleader, is what helps every time.
Do you think there comes a time, and for me, I've had to learn to do this more often, to get them to recognize I am the professional in this space. I'm the expert in this space. Let me do this. Allow me to do my job. Because if you were able to do this yourself, you would not have hired me. Like, is there a nice way to say that? Because I find myself struggling sometimes with not being rude, because something just said, like, hey, let me do what I do.
Right? Yes. Also have been there. Well, there's actually two things you should do before you respond to any email, call, text, or anything of the sort in that category. Again, Tanya, you know how I feel about this. I would say the first thing is walk away, take a breather, maybe even do something else that brings you joy, right? Like just something else. Because I will say this, there's no professional that has ever been in a situation that feels calm. It's not like someone that creates calm for you. You're not like, oh my gosh, this is great. Usually I've seen people write like I rolled my eyes. I'm like just trying to keep a straight face and smile. Like, you're trying to do everything to keep it in because you're like, just trust me, just trust me, just trust me. So usually it's better to just walk away and say, like, I will provide my feedback in 24 to 48 hours or whatever timeline's best for you. Go do something to get your mind off of it, because really at that point you're you might come off defensive if you just react.
Yeah.
It's not the best idea. Then once you're done, you come back. I also like to use this tool called, well, everyone knows Grammarly, I hope, but if not, Grammarly is really helpful. And I actually use this tool for tone.
Yes.
So typically I will write out what I want to say. And at least for me, the Grammarly tone measurement tool has been very helpful because it does being direct, aggressive, too formal or something like that. It has been really good for me. And at that point, I am trying to get to direct and confident, the two things, because for me, I don't want to backpedal. At least as a Black woman, I tend to like start to lower my tone and try to like adjust and like not be seen as combative or angry. So that is really important for me to still be direct and be confident in my, in what I'm saying. And then once I've written it out, then whether I say it or I type it, I know that I'm coming across how I need it to come across.
Right.
But that's what I would suggest. There's no like one, word or phrase or something. All these situations are different. And so it's really, again, walk away, breathe, call somebody, do something that just makes you happy. Just get some steam off, do something else. And then I would say Grammarly has been very, very helpful for me to get what I need to say across and make sure that I'm giving the tone that I want. So that's
I
what
love that. I love that. So I have learned, I had a interview, I was on a podcast with a guy that was interviewing me about my book. And he
Ooh.
said, "You're the first person I've ever read your writing, and it sounds exactly like you. Your writing is your tone."
Mm-hmm.
So instead of even dealing with Grammarly, I just pick up the phone because things can get lost in translation.
Sure.
And the back and forth is just going to give me carpal tunnel. So at any point where I feel like there needs to be some deeper explanation, I
Yeah.
will pick up the phone. And I think we've gotten a little complacent in regards to verbal communication because it is so easy to just send a text or an email,
Yeah.
especially with a text. You just like, and
Yeah.
then
Texting is not.
talk to text is even worse because
Yeah.
they're like, "What did you say? Never mind. Hold on, let me call you. We gonna understand today."
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm with you on that. Like, call. I will say in my situation of like legal PR on that side of the business, they're always so busy. It's harder for me. So within context, let's put it within context. For me, in my like again legal PR field, it's a lot more challenging to get a client on the phone.
Yeah.
There's just too many opportunities for them not to answer, and again, they prefer email. Now, I have had to use text at least once, sadly, but it was my last resort. And at that
Right.
point, I'm like going 2 sentences in, like I'm not doing a whole, explanation. I'm just like, hey, need your help now. And then they called me. So that worked out.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
What's SEO, Tam? And what is it? What's this three-letter word that people pay all this money for? What's
Yeah.
SEO?
Yes. So SEO is an acronym for search engine optimization. The best way I always say is like you use it every single day. When you go online and you're like, I want to see the closest Caribbean restaurant near me, Mexican restaurant near me. I always say Caribbean because I am Caribbean, so it just makes it easier. But when you look for like maybe PR professional or PR agency near me or anything like that, that's what shows up in Google results, Bing results, Yahoo results. And that's really all SEO is getting you to the information that you need to solve the problem that you have. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. That's really
Why is
it.
it so expensive? Why is it so expensive, Tam?
Why is it so expensive? Well, like PR. Like PR. PR and SEO are so similar to be honest, which is probably why I love both. Uh, SEO takes time. And like I said, over time, when you like actually even out, like you divide the money, look for the average, like PR, it actually just it compounds. It's like compounding interest. The benefits you get from it, the ROI you get from it as a business compounds. But the effort that it takes to implement it is not just like, I mean, even social media is the same thing. You're not just going to send a tweet or, make a post and it just like goes viral. Like you have to consistently do it, right? PR and SEO is about consistency and you have to consistently fertilize it, pour water on it. You got to garden. That's why it's expensive is that you have to put time into it. Now, the levels of that expense can depend on your industry. It could depend on how competitive the market is. For example, if you're in Chicago, Illinois, it will be more competitive than if you're in a more rural area. It just, I mean, again, it's just is what it is. You're competing with less people. So it's a lot of it is just the fact that it takes time and money over time is multiplied. But again, averaging that out, it's still more cost effective than paying for an ad. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So listen, before I let you go, we have to talk about hot topics.
Oh,
And I'll let you pick. Like, what's the
whoa.
topic right now that's really just driving you nuts?
Driving me nuts. I mean, let's just go with today. Let's talk about the Facebook down situation because that's a whole situation on its own. It's funny. My husband asked me like, "What's going on? Like, why? Why is that happening?" So in PR, I really am praying for their team right now. Social media, PR, the whole 9 yards. In PR, we definitely try to avoid crises, but part of our job is creating brand awareness and protecting a brand's reputation. So it has two sides. And right now, Facebook is in this. I many words ran through my mind, but I just
So they need a little crisis PR right now.
crisis PR. They need, I mean, crisis social
They need
media.
a whole rebranding at this point.
They need a lot. I mean, and so I'm just very curious because again, in our world, right, in the PR world, we think of everything. I like to think of us as like inbound marketing specialists, right? We know what's happening in all the marketing buckets because that's what we're paid. Like we need to know it, right? Because we have to learn how to protect, amplify, pause, all that stuff. And so right now it's just like Facebook has been, well, Facebook and Instagram especially have been a huge part of misinformation. They've been a huge part of political disputes. They've been a huge part of mental health for just women, kids, everyone of every gender. Like, I mean, there's been good that's happened on the platforms, obviously, right? But like, they went to Congress for this, man. There's a lot going on.
I was like, after the episode last night on 60 Minutes, I assumed somebody Karen civiled Facebook and just had somebody take it down. So
no, I didn't think about that at all, actually. I didn't think about that. But yeah, I mean, I'm just really curious. And so everyone's obviously paying attention. Of course, this is another great reminder to invest in those, marketing methods that are not just social media, Facebook and Instagram. Like diversify your marketing methods, do PR, do SEO. Like you need to do both and all the above. You need to so your business is not like at a standstill when Facebook crashes. They've had a lot of crashes recently, to be honest. Like it's not anything new, but yeah.
One of the things I think is hugely important for people to recognize is that when you have a good PR campaign and your brand is solid, when bad things happen, it don't always just take you all the way down because you have a track record of good work, of goodwill, and things like that. And even there at the top, the CEO, it's supposed to be a trickle down thing. He's nowhere to be found when these tragedies and crises are going on with his company, meaning you can't possibly be on message because everybody should be on the same message and he's on no message at all. So there has to be consistency throughout an organization, a business, a nonprofit in regards to who you are as a company and what you represent. And unfortunately, it seems like that's something that they have kind of missed the mark on over the years.
I was going to say, it's not like a one-time. This isn't a one-time issue, unfortunately. And like I said, like I appreciate the platform for what it does from a marketing perspective as a business, but it's definitely tough because you see the effects it has. Again, from like a employee perspective, social media managers have a tough time with that platform. It causes more headaches from a mental health perspective of like just kids, teens. I mean, I keep seeing like, plastic surgery procedures and just plastic surgery terms that are associated with strictly Instagram. And again, Pinterest has done a great job at trying to really manage their reputation after like so many documentaries have dropped about the negative effects of social media. And Facebook went to Congress. They talked about all these things. I mean, again, the trouble with the politics, all of that. And I mean, Mark Zuckerberg made statements to our government. And clearly, when this product manager came out and said what she said, basically what she exposed is that they really don't care. And that's the problem. That's the problem. It's like they said they cared. Back to when we talk about being authentic and being true, they said they cared in front of everybody. And behind the scenes, they didn't give two hoops, as we would say in the Caribbean. So it's just, that's the crisis. That is the crux of the crisis. Like, they cared more about the money when they said to everyone else that was not the case. So it's just that's really why they're in hot water. And
but it does suck for those social media managers and companies that are living on the platform. So we always suggest get your own platform, have a platform for your stuff. Make sure that if these social media spots blow up, you will still have a business. You will still have a brand. You do not need to rely on them. You can build your own website, but even then you still need to know how to drive people to the website and have great SEO and PR.
Yeah. SEO and PR.
Yeah. So let the people know how they can stay in touch with you, get in touch with you, stay in touch with you, especially if they need SEO help, because you are the queen. And I'm sure they are probably curious. So go ahead, let them know that.
So if you're talking about PR help and you're a lawyer, I actually do work for a great firm called Postali, and you can find me at Postali Tamara. I know that Tanya has definitely linked to me. So if you find me on LinkedIn, you can just message me and we'll go from there. Now, if you want SEO help, it's Badian Girl. So I didn't say this in the beginning, but I am Barbadian by birth. So I've lived in the US for about 16 years. And so I'm really proud of my heritage. And so I go by Badian, Baydian girl. It's all one word. And if you go on, well, you can't go on Instagram or Facebook because they're down. So just go on Twitter. You go on Twitter, you'll find me either way.
God.
Oh gosh. I'm telling you, I have to say this though. Someone said it. I thought this was the best thing ever. First of all, Twitter said hello at literally everyone, then McDonald's, and then we're having a good conversation. It's amazing. But the tweet that I live for, is when someone said, I can't wait till Sally Mae goes down. I'm just like,
I need you to retweet that. Thanks.
oh, okay. I'll find it.
We need that one to circulate. Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I just want to say, just find me on Twitter. That's usually where I am anyway. So
Speaking of Twitter,
yes.
if you are someone that's interested in PR or making more better quality relationships on Twitter, see us on Fridays.
Yes.
Hashtag PR lunch hour, and you will find us because we created it. Oh my God. And this Friday is going to be amazing because we have a special guest.
Yeah.
Tell them because you did it.
I did it. That's true. We have Jeremy Monk from One Pitch. So they're going to actually share with us a little bit about creating media lists. So even if you have to DIY your PR a little bit, or you're a PR professional and you just want to learn more, because, again, we're in the business of continuous learning, you should stop by. It's Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time and 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hope to see you there.
Yeah, that would be great. And you can always find me at Tanya McKenzie PR or right here on LinkedIn, where people love to lead and learn. And with that, I want to thank you, Ms. Tam Tam, for spending some time with the people, letting them know a little bit about SEO and why PR is so important. Thank you guys so much. And I will see you next week. Same bat channel, same bat time.